This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Friends of the podcast, welcome back to another episode of the President McCormack Podcast with my good friend, Ryon Bingham.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, thanks for coming on.
You bet.
We were just getting warmed up talking about Nebraska football because you just spent the weekend over there.
I just spent a weekend over in Nebraska. Man, that was such a beautiful state. The people love the fans love their team, and we got our ass kicked. But man, it was great to be back. I hadn't been back there, so I'll just tell you, I took age 18 a ride with my dad, my brother, and my best friend, and we drove out to Nebraska. And I'm used to the mountains, and I'm used to all that, and I go out to Nebraska and it's flat, and I was like, what is this place? Was really unsure, but the first town we stopped in was a little town, a little cow town, and I go inside and we order some food, and the lady who was serving us knew who I was, and I was like, wait a minute, you know who I am, right? It just blew my mind. This is the fans. They know the recruits. They love the team. They know everything about the players. I mean, it's just a beautiful culture.
Yeah.
So after 23 years ago, my dad, my brother, and my friend dropped me off. Here we are back again in the stadium. And so it was just like really nostalgic and a beautiful moment. It was awesome.
No, Nebraska, we were talking about earlier. I mean, Nebraska is just one of those programs from when we were in high school and, going to college and stuff. It was just like one of the greatest programs. Yeah. I mean, absolutely one of the greatest.
Yep.
So
the 90s, 94, 95, 97 national championships, I go in there in 1998 and I get a full ride scholarship as a, junior in high school. At the time that was like the biggest dream alive. I thought I was the king of the planet. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I'm gonna bring it up right now because all my high school friends will like freaking love this. But if you don't know who Ryon is from high school, Ryon is the Creatine Creation.
Yeah,
which is funny because I actually knew you for a while before someone had like brought that up, and I was like, oh damn, I remember hearing about this kid.
Right.
It was just like a beast, right? I mean, how'd you get the nickname?
So right around that time, this is when creatine was just kind of hitting the market, right? And I was willing at that time to take anything legal, right? Yeah. That I could. A lot of people thought I was taking steroids at that time, but it was just literally hard work, eating, obviously genetics, and I think at the time creatine was a huge proponent. Yeah. It was. So they did an article. And they entitled it Creatine Creation with Mark McGuire also taking creatine, right? And I think it's fair to say that I think he was taking other stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
But got kind of known for that, as I would promote it or talk about, this is what I'm doing to, get big and to get strong and to improve my athletic performance. It was enhancing it, and it was legal. So I'm going to be vulnerable for a minute. I'm going to say how stupid I was as a kid. I remember I used to believe in it so much that I actually one time thought, okay, what's the best way to get it in pregame? Okay. And so I snorted it. I tried. Ouchie. And I remember my brother came in the room and he actually walked in on me while I was doing it. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, because it looked like I was snorting something else. And I'd already had accusations of being on steroids. Yeah. And as a kid, I didn't do any drugs, right? Maybe a little pot, right? But just alcohol and pot and that kind of stuff. But never took steroids. And I was kind of this freak. I was 270, like 7% body fat. I was a, heavyweight undefeated champion and, Utah Gatorade Player of the Year, and kind of like I kind of bought into that mold. Like I was like, fine, you guys want to throw me into the steroid kind of bus? Like I'll fit that, right? And so that would have been my persona back when I was in high school. Just kind of, and I dealt with a lot. So I always say this, that the people who are muscular generally, I'm gonna throw this out there, are hiding their emotions in their muscles.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Because we're all dealing with stuff, but I think a lot of us use the weight room as a way to, cope with the things we're dealing with. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were getting recruited for colleges, did they know about that nickname? Did that come up, or was that more just like a local Utah thing?
I don't remember that ever getting brought up.
Never?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably a good thing.
I think it was local, but, it was actually on ABC World News.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, they actually came out and they followed me around, watched my workouts, came to my home, watched me, mix a protein shake, go to the practice, watch me lift and go through a whole thing of football practice. I forget the lady's name. It was with Peter Jennings, and then he had a right-hand woman, and I forget her name, but she was the one that came out and interviewed me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So when's the last time you took creatine?
You know what? Creatine probably, it's been a couple years.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of fallen by the wayside, right?
I think, yeah, a lot of that stuff. There's some effervescence or stuff, that you can take to get in your bloodstream quicker. Yeah, for the most part, I think there's better options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I remember, I want to say it was when I was 15 or 16, I actually got creatine for Christmas from my parents.
Oh, really?
And it was such an odd gift to unwrap, because it was also kind of like I was transitioning from, toys to things, because I'm not a child anymore.
Right, right.
But I think my dad had heard from one of his friends who was a football coach up at Bingham about creatine. And so, I unpackaged this creatine monohydrate, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of like, what the hell is this?
It's a funny Christmas gift.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And then my friends and I, so, I went to Lone Peak High School, right? And so our football team ended up being pretty good by my senior year. But dude, all of us were doing creatine. I wonder if it was, I'm telling you, it's probably because of you.
Really?
You know what I mean? Well, it kind of caught fire, right? It's like, creatine,
That's funny.
But we used to go buy from Costco pure grape juice, right? So not from concentrate.
Yeah.
So we could spike it as we take it. Do you remember doing that crap?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So actually, when I got into the NFL, I had a friend that was a bodybuilder. And we used to take a cup of sugar after I got done working out, and even sometimes before, to spike your insulin.
Yeah.
Right. To open up all your cells and everything else. But, I was going to mention the same friend talked about the Creatine Creation was my best friend in high school. And he and I were infatuated with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we were just talking about this, about, how he used to go up in the mountains and have a whole chicken and a keg of beer. That was his party, right? And I was like, this is freaking awesome, dude. We were trying to live that same lifestyle back then without actually taking the steroids. So it was taking anything we could, that was legal, eating and consuming, large amounts of protein. We'd go to the store, we'd pick up these huge round steaks, and in my off time, time that you'd go out with your friends or party, whatever, I was in the gym. I had a stereo set in my room. If I wasn't in the gym, I was down in my room lifting weights.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister would get mad at me, at the time, and I said, "This is going to pay off." Because
she's like, "Turn off Alice in Chains."
This is so loud, what are you doing down there? It's Pantera or just some loud, music. And I was convinced in high school to become a self-made person. There was a lot of people telling me that I couldn't do things, and I kind of had a great childhood, but I had parents that fought a lot. I remember standing between my parents fighting as a kid, and I had to call the police on them, kind of thing. They're wonderful parents, and they've done my whole life have just been so supportive, but in terms of their personal relationship, it was always chaotic, always. And so as a kid, I can't overstate that enough, man. We go through so much as kids, and we're sponges. Fortunately, I found a good outlet, because also my energy is just, I've always been, my parents said when they put me in my crib and I was big enough, I would just break it. I'd smash it and get out. They call me Bam Bam, and that's just my thing, man. So I have to really channel my energy towards, things that are good, just like all of us, right? But I feel like at a young age, I was lucky enough. My dad played for Weber State. My brother ended up playing for Southern Utah, and both my dad and my brother got me into football. And in fact, my brother got me into wrestling.
How old were you when you started football?
I started football when I was 11.
11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 189 pounds.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Were you really?
189. My brother was 13 months older than me. He started his first year as well, 12, right? So I'm 11, he's 12. He was 205 pounds.
Wow.
I know. I see those numbers now, and I'm like,
So-
that just seems crazy. But yeah.
So Nixon right now, my son's 10. He'll turn 11 in February.
Yeah.
He's 66 pounds.
Okay.
Now we're in the B2 team, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the way, my defense last week smashed it, dude.
They smash it. That's awesome.
Bro, we lost 6-0.
Okay.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And I got real greedy on defense. They had negative yards.
Yeah.
They had negative yards and still beat us because,
Wow.
dude, it was like freaking 4th and 30, 4th and 25 over and over.
Yeah.
Because I kept floating the safety, right? And,
Right,
and
right.
blitzing him,
Right.
Over and over.
Yeah.
So they just did a little dump pass over the middle, and this kid caught it, literally ran right past me.
Right.
Most tempting thing in my life was to knock that kid over and just take a flag, right? I'm like, boom.
Yeah.
And I just like moved out of the way. The kid goes right in the end zone. I was just like, son of a bitch.
You know,
freaking.
Dude, I never realized like how much. Even I promise you, up until probably just watching this Nebraska game.
Yeah.
You know, I just watched the Nebraska OU game, and to see the minds of the coaches, right? You don't realize like how much coaches influence the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, by play calling and strategy and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I've always known it, but to then kind of, you know, not be a player and have this kind of aerial view as I'm watching, it's amazing to see how good kids can actually become when they have the right coaches, right?
Well, and the motivation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when coaches can motivate you, it's like unheard of.
Right.
One thing that's weird for me is I look back in my life, and it's funny. I don't actually view myself that as that competitive.
Uh-huh.
But like compared to other people, I'm like a level 10. Right.
Right. That's
Because it's more like when I engage in something, I become very, very competitive.
Yeah.
You know, but then like I just feel like in my normal life, I'm just like, oh, I'm just here to have fun and enjoy and relax. You know what I mean? But it's almost like flip a switch when it's game time, and it's like, oh, we're in a competitive situation, so yeah, we're going hard now.
Right.
You know, even with football, right? Like before football, I was never the screamy guy. I was never bashing my head into a locker and hitting helmets and all that stuff. I would always listen to like the Notorious B.I.G. Right,
Okay.
but I would listen to like the good stuff and just get into like a groove, and like I always wanted to come out with swagger.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Which I played center, right?
Yeah.
And some of the defensive down linemen, you know. But like most of the time, it's like, no, I got a freaking job to do. You know, I got to tell the guys, you got to lead them, you got to push this line and go beat everyone's ass, right?
For sure. Right.
And so, but it's funny. I go into my mindset was just not competitive, but I was highly motivated to like do my job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like when we did the jump right down in Moab, you know?
It's
like we got a job to do. Yeah.
I was like, I've seen when you've gone from, just chilling to straight let's go mode. And when you get into let's go mode, it's scary. Watch out. Right.
I love that, dude.
Seriously.
I'll tell you the thing you said to me in Moab though, dude. Remember you said like, I wish we would have battled, brother, on the football field?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I know. Yeah.
That would have been so freaking fun.
Right.
Just like, fun. I mean, what was that like,
How
man?
do we know that we didn't battle? Because I've thought about that. Like, how do we know?
Well, you were at Alta, right?
Yeah.
We just never played Alta. Well, you graduated in
Timpanogos.
No, Lone Peak.
Oh, Lone Peak, my bad. Yeah. So no, I thought I'll have to check the memory bank, but I think I could have swore we played Lone Peak. Anyways, it would have been amazing to battle.
Oh, it would have been way good. Yeah. I would think you guys are 5A though, right?
We were 5A.
I think we were 4.
Okay. Yeah.
We played Olympus one year and in the playoffs and lost. And then like my senior year, we went undefeated in our region. Right?
Okay.
And then we lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's like the most defeating thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Luckily, I just didn't skip a beat and kept moving, right?
Yeah.
But like, that was brutal.
Yeah.
I don't even think a team scored more than a touchdown against us. And then I don't even know the final score of that last game. I was so upset, so upsetting. And a couple of us were like standing on the field, dude, like the fans had left after, and it was just like, this is wild. The thing with me though is I was always like, well, I guess my high school career is over. It's time for college, you know?
Uh-huh.
Then I broke my freaking back, and I look back and I'm like, damn, dude, like if you would have known that was the last time you would pad up,
Wow.
that would have hit a lot harder.
Sure.
Sure.
It's crazy. Life is obviously unpredictable, right? A lot of stuff we don't know, but what you just said just triggered me. Everything that I've now experienced in my life, which has been a lot, I feel like I'm, in many ways, like I've lived 4 or 5 lives because I've done so much and seen so much. It's all about staying in the moment, right? And just enjoying every single moment that we have, because life, it is crazy. You know, one minute you're on the top, next minute you could be down at the bottom. They're both just part of life experiences, you know. And I think the football career and the football that we did get to participate in, like, dude, how fun was it to hang out with friends, you know? How fun was it to win games and to have, you know, parties afterwards and to bleed and to sweat with guys. And that's really, like, it's all the little moments. Like, people ask me, my buddy, we were in Nebraska, and he says, do you miss this? And I said, no, but I miss moments of this. The reason why I don't miss this is because I had a lot of injuries, right? And I had a lot of things that I dealt with, that now I think, okay, maybe I should have been smarter, right? Done something with school. Not that I didn't graduate, but just focused just on that. But I would have missed out on everything that I've had as a life lesson, right? And I've been really blessed to see so much. I mean, college football, to play for Nebraska, you know, to see these different stadiums and everything else, and coaching, and then going to the NFL and have iconic players and guys that I was able to play with, and coaches that I was able to, you know, be coached under, and everything. Like, life has just given me so much.
Yeah.
You know,
for one thing with football for me too is one of the things that's great about football is the singular focus, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go to the weight room to win, you go to practice to win, you hang out with your freaking teammates to win. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's all part of one very, very, very singular focus.
True.
And like nowadays, you know, like, you know, between, you know, working and investing and like having kids and spouses and divorces and like just life, all the shit that hits you, right?
Right.
It's all multifaceted. Yep. And there's like layers to it and there's complexity. But when you're on a football team, or pretty much any team probably, right? But specifically football for this conversation,
right,
it is all about winning.
Yep.
And so when you go and perform, if you win or you don't, and it's just like black and white.
Yeah. For sure. No, that part of football, I mean, learning to really kind of tune out. I remember, I'm just going to say this, I remember Marty Schottenheimer in the NFL, literally at one of our first meetings on the road for a team meeting, he stands up and he says, now listen, you sons of bitches, I want you to keep your girlfriends away from your wives, you know, out here. You know, and he said that, I was like, is he being serious? And, you know, honestly, I think he was obviously being serious, but he was also saying that, and it just brought to my mind, like, dude, there's a lot of guys on this professional team that have outside, you know, things going on that could influence the game, right? And to your point, like, being part of a team, it's actually a really special part of your life that you get to, like, you know, you have 10 million things going on in the world. You get to focus and channel in and have like a tribal brotherhood where you guys could go out and bond and fight wars together. Now, I don't think we thought about it like that when we were in high school, but as I've aged, I'm like, that's what we did. You know, we had one purpose, one understanding, and we just got out there and worked as a team the best we could, and you gain so much of that in life. Now when I look at other humans, like, well, did you play athletics? You know, and if they have, you kind of know where they stand. Most humans, do you agree? Like, there's when you've played athletics, you've developed a toughness and a mental perspective that a lot of people don't get experience, right, in this life. So yeah, for that reason, I love sports.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to say this. I actually wasn't that interested in sports. Funny enough, like, I don't even watch games anymore. Like,
it's a tragedy.
Tragedy. For most men, I'm like, I'm abnormal. You know, I would rather watch Animal Planet.
Oh really?
Dude, I would. And I'd rather watch history or whatever. But
why do you think that is though?
Just,
are you worn out on the game?
No, I've just always been wired towards that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, I've always loved animals. I've always loved travel. I've always loved the planet. I don't think I knew it quite like I know it now, but like that just has been interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's actually one of the things that I've learned most about in this life is like, dude, you got to honor yourself. You know, like I remember being on the plane in the NFL, and I'm reading a book called Day Trading for Dummies. Right. And I remember guys walking past me and being like, what the hell is that? You know, like, what's this guy reading? And same thing, I was reading Harry Potter, you know, on the plane. And guys are just like, what is this guy doing? I think that's been a superpower of mine. I haven't really cared too much, you know. I just do me, and I'm not, you know, apologizing for it. It's like, this is who I am in this moment in time. This is what I do. So I think I've been real fortunate. I think that's why we're successful, honestly, because we just own who we are. We're not, you know, we're not guys who apologize for that. And whatever it is you're into, like you just go, we just go head into it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to have a lot of confidence to do that.
Yeah.
And I think as I've aged and I've watched people, you know, in relationships, being single, in business, the confident ones, and not the fake confidence, because that's the worst, right? That's like you're just a meteorite about to die.
Exactly.
But if you're really confident, dude, you do not give a shit what other people think, and you just keep on rolling. But people are so crazy attracted to that. Yep. You know, they're just like, wow, well, he's not perfect. How can he be so confident? You know, and it's just like, what other option? In my mind, it's like, what other option do I have? Yeah. Do I need to have a cry about something? Screw that. I don't have time for that. I'm going to die in 40 years. So I've got 40 more years if we can go live this life, and I'm going to go hard. Yep.
And I love you said that, because, you know, I have 4 kids, and, you know, you have kids, and we want the best for them, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? You know, does that mean like your version of the best for them, right? And I think a lot of times I have to realize, me as a person, my parents had to allow me to kind of be who I am. I know at times they're like, this guy's crazy, right? But they love me because they know I'm following my heart. And I've done a lot of things in life that I've had to have a lot of pain because I followed my heart. One of them was actually leaving and going to Nebraska. They wanted me to stay at BYU or Utah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't. This is not, I mean, obviously the program's sensational, and it was, you know, the best thing in the 90s. But I've always just felt like I've had to follow my intuition and follow what it is that I'm, you know, about. And to my kids and everything else, you know, like that's what I want, man. You know, I just want I want my kids to follow their heart. So right now I ask my kids, I know I want to guide them and like push them, but I just want them to follow the best version of themselves, and they have to be actively involved in that. Yeah. You know, like whatever that is, if that's, you know, getting into stand-up comedy or, you know, drama, I don't know, right? Yeah. Like follow you. Like you said, we have such a limited time, and it's really interesting that we think that we should care about what other people think. We're all going to be dead in 100 years. Think about it. That's really wild. Like 100 years from now, it's a fact. Like everyone you know, including our kids, are not going to be around unless they're 100 and, you know, my youngest is 108. Okay, cool. Right. Right. But other than that, like,
well, so 100 years, we might not even be known anymore. Right. You might be, because they got some film on you.
No, it's so true. Oh, we got this. So Mark,
I guess we got the podcast. Yeah, this will live on for eternity.
This will live on for eternity. That's why I actually came on here. So
yeah. Oh, thank you.
So it's on for eternity.
Yeah, but no, I was watching this motivational TikTok, you know, and it was basically like, dude, you're dead in 40 years. Yeah. 80 years, maybe people remember you. And it was like, 100 years from now, no one will even know your name. So go live your life.
Go live your life.
You know, and it's like,
find that
freak,
thing. Yeah. Find the vein that makes you feel alive and do that.
And the problem too, that what people don't understand until they start living their life the way they want to live it, is as you live off your intuition, every time you make a good decision inside that, it confirms it and just multiplies it by 1,000,000. 100%. So after you do that for 10 or 15 years, it's just like, I'm always going with my gut.
I'm always going with my gut.
Like, I don't even care if it doesn't logically make sense. Right. You know?
And life is happening for us, right? Yeah. Not to us, like it's actually happening for us. When everything in your life is understood to be aligning, like everything is happening for you, right? Yeah. And so when you start looking at everything that's happening, it's like, you know, maybe you ask for more compassion, whatever, right? And you get this huge opportunity to then be in that position where you have to have compassion. And sometimes we miss that. Like we don't actually do it, you know? But when you become really in tune with the fact that everything is happening in life like it's happening for you, then you notice like all the grace, you notice all the hardships, all the things you're going through are literally things that are meant for you. They're designed for you. And in my belief system, you design them as you kind of go through it. Like your mind is attracting the things that you're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so like when you get into the proper mindset and you start realizing like, you know, whatever it is that happens to me, it's my opportunity to like respond, you know, in the way that I should respond, right? As opposed to like just being reactionary and just responding like, no, hang on a minute, I get a chance like how I get to respond to that. Whatever hardship it is that comes at me, like an injury, right? I mean, I don't know if you've ever had injuries, but like, I know you had. You played.
Well, I'm sitting on a sprained calf right now.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, so like the injuries we have in sports really set us back. And we get an opportunity to like say, you know, how is this going to affect me? I had a lot of injuries playing. And it was always those moments like I remember the injuries almost more than some of the good times, right? Just because those hardships and things are happening for us. They make us tougher, right? And I think the biggest disservice that we're doing to kids right now, I went out and watched my nephew play practice, and he's not conditioning. They're not conditioning the kids. They just do practice and they're done. And I'm like, you guys are missing it. They think they're doing them a service by, oh, we're saving you guys so we don't wear you out or whatever. But what they're not realizing is like the body has an amazing ability to like adapt and to like overcome things. But it needs to be stressed. It needs to be put through such like crazy stress that it adapts. And it's like, oh, cool. You know, like I'm okay. It's just, you know, remember football practice, when you first started training camp and stuff or those hell weeks, dude, it sucked. Like those first 2 or 3 days really sucked. But then what happened was after 2 weeks, you kind of, I mean, after a week, you're numb. Right? You're pain, but you just kind of push through it. You crack your neck and you do your stretches, you warm up, and you just push through the practices. In fact, it doesn't really bother you anymore. Yeah,
you know it's working right when like day 4 or 5 you actually need to stretch.
Right.
At the start you're like, oh, I got to freaking work this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you go to practice. I mean, we used to do. I mean, you lived in the days we did 2-a-days.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and they were legit. It was like 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours at like what 4 in the afternoon.
Yep.
Like, those were hard days.
Really hard days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that I believe we're kind of missing, you know, and I'm all for, you know, understanding how the body works and obviously not, you know, pushing guys to the brink of extinction, right? Yeah. I don't want guys dying and falling out, but like how much of that is actually going to happen if you take proper care of your body and kids need it.
Well, and we've learned, right? Like kids now, you know, I'm coaching these 10-year-olds, right? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you got to give them a water break every 20 minutes. Yeah. You got to keep them hydrated. Right. Right.
And when I was you know, playing, and I'm sure the same way, it's like they wouldn't even give us water.
For 2 hours.
Right. It would be like they'd call us a pussy if we actually had some water. Right?
Absolutely.
You think about it now, it's like that's the dumbest shit you ever heard in your life.
Absolutely.
But, you know, so there's that kind of stuff where we know better. But then why are we getting soft on kids? You know, why we allow, like, we're doing no service.
Oh, our society's so damn soft.
So damn soft.
So soft.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I'm really hoping our kids' generation, right, that's coming up, well, I know my kids will be tougher because I don't pull any punches with them, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
My wife does bust my balls every time I call my kids stupid, right? So now I call them silly.
But is it done with like, you know, it's done with humor and love?
No, it is, yeah. Right? Like they'll do something and I'll be like, well, that was stupid.
Right.
You know, and they'll be like, yeah, you're right, Dad. And then, you know, my wife, it's like a gut, because, you know, I love the kids, but, you know, she's the mom, right? She wants to comfort them, right? And it's like, Mark, it's really harsh when you say that. I'm like, no. They need to understand what is smart and what is stupid. And once they realize what's smart and stupid, they'll start doing more smart things. So I did agree to start calling it silly, which is funny, right? I'm like, well, that was a silly thing to do, right? And then but then my daughter, who's like so smart, right? She just goes, do you say silly when you mean stupid?
You're like,
and I go, yes, I do. But like, I'm like brutally honest with my kids. I'm not an oversharer, right? You know, some parents will like start talking about sex with their kids when they're like 5. Right. We don't do that crap.
Right.
But like, if they ask me a question, they're getting an answer.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, but the people need to understand in life there's winners and losers. Yeah. And just because you lost one time or 100 times doesn't mean you can't be a winner. But it definitely means you got to change your behavior to become a winner.
For sure.
Or practice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of the most important things that I've ever learned in my life has been mindfulness. Dude, after I got done playing the NFL, I got into this like Zen journey where I found, you know, Eastern understanding and mindfulness. And I was just in the gym the other day, and this guy came out to me, and we talk, you know, for advice or whatever. And he came up and he was having a hard time, and his thing was, you know, all the stuff that had happened to him over the weekend, right? And I says, yeah, but what about right now? You know, and because like this is what we have now. And so what I told him was, dude, just live right now. Forgive yourself, right? Like love yourself, live in this moment right now, and be the best version of yourself. Because let's be honest, no one cares whether you were great, you know, this weekend, really, right?
No,
right. And so like, okay, you had a bad weekend, whatever. Like, who cares, man? You know, own your shit and live in this moment. That's been challenging for me over the years to like really do, to like live in this moment and to be mindful and to live the best version of myself here, you know, because a lot of times we do want to hold on to the past, right? Whether it's great or bad, we want to like talk about, you know, the thing we did that was cool, and then even hold ourselves back by talking about the thing that the reason why we're not the way we should be is because of this, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when we were down in Moab for our men's group,
yeah,
you know, that first activity we did, right, 50 things about you is our badass list, right?
Yeah,
well, you were down there with me, right? We were in the same group.
Yeah, we were in the same group.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you remember our group. Yeah. So if you remember, dude, it's one of the last times I felt like embarrassed about something. Because I wrote that list, and it was really more of a self-prophecy, right? I wanted to like, these are the things that I am, but I want to be better at. Like, I want to be a friend. I want to be good to people. I want to be honest. You know, I want to do it like, and it was all these like more philosophical things, right? And then people started doing their badass lists. They're like, I sold 100 accounts and I made $500,000 one day. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff, dude. And as the people are like reading their lists, I'm like, dude, I haven't written down like any of my past accomplishments. It's
bro. You know what I love about that though? That speaks so much to you.
Yeah, you think?
Oh, dude, hell yes. Because you have, like, you don't need to brag. You've done amazing things, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that the guys were bragging, but I think when you wrote your badass, you really, truly, in my opinion, those are the badass things.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's the things I consider to be the badass things.
And I was, my list was the same.
Yeah, yours was very similar.
Yeah, it was, you know, like being able to have humor and, you know, being kind and, you know, being just small little things. But those are things that are more important than all the little accolades, because we could have listed a ton of accolades.
Well,
right?
we both wanted to be fathers. Like, we wanted to be good fathers, and you know,
fathers, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There was a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
I've had so many people come up to me after and just say, like, dude, I just appreciate how much you love your kids and your wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't feel like I talk about that all the time. You know what I mean?
You do though. Like, I mean, not all the time, but you and your wife are definitely, can tell, have a great relationship, and you say like she knows, you know, when you walk in the room, like you just know one another. You know body language. Okay, I get where you're at. You know, yeah. So that's special, man. And you know, not a lot of guys have that.
I'm lucky with that. Yeah. I really am.
Yeah,
we've grown that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we were freaking 20 years old and 22 when we got married. Like. Yeah. We had like a 1% chance. You know, it's kind of like playing poker, right? And they have that little 1% on you. Me, we're just walking down the street, you know, like, hey, this is fun. We're married now, you know. Like, should we get jobs? You know, it's just like, it's
That's
wild.
Life, though. That's so life.
It is. You know, I found a life partner is what I found.
Yeah.
Like, she's legitimately my best friend.
Love that.
You know, and yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's such a weird thing to me, because I look at it, I'm like, dude, what did you do to actually make this work? Like, could you teach this? Could you like explain it to someone? And I can explain certain things big time, right? But the whole thing.
What kind of things? Because listen, I'm a guy who needs that advice right now. Honestly, I mean, I feel like
we pivot with each other.
Okay.
We forgive each other. That's a big thing. And I hate to say them in general, like broad terms, but like if I do something stupid, she calls me out on it. But she does it in a kind way, right? So like if we're in a big group and I'm saying something stupid because I'm loud and boisterous and being funny or trying to crack a joke and it like offends her or something,
right?
I hear about it really quickly after the fact.
Okay.
And the reason why I hear about it quickly is because when we were first married, she would hold on to crap for like 2 weeks and bring it up. And one day, because I'm I'm me. I was just like, it doesn't matter. If you don't bring it up within 3 days, it's dead to me.
Right.
And it pissed her off, right? Because she's like, oh, my feelings. And it's like, no. Like, this is a partnership. You got to bring that shit up within like 3 days. You know what I mean? And really, you should bring it up within 24 hours, you know? And
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
and she started
advice,
doing that, you know? And I actually feel, this will sound funny, but I feel like I'm humble.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I'm humble enough to listen to what she says, and I will change.
Gotcha. Is it something that you want to like be told right away?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't want to be embarrassed in the moment. No one does, right?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Even though if she did that in the moment, she's like, Mark, you're being an idiot. Shut up. You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, babe. Like, you would watch me just flip a switch because I respect her opinion more than anybody's, you know? And I know she also has my best interest in mind. Like, you know what I mean? She lets me be me. She lets me do things that I want to do all the time.
See,
right?
That's the key.
Yeah.
What you just said to me is like, she has your best interest at mind.
Yeah.
And when you have a partnership where you both are like that, then you can accept like, you know, critiques and stuff like that. It's when you're in a relationship, in my opinion, that you're getting manipulated.
Right.
They don't have your best interest, right? Like they want to control you in some way, shape or form. And so a lot of guys like resent that, or girls resent that versus, you know, like the relationship you have is two people who want the best for one another. You love one another. You don't like that part about something, so you call them on it. You know, say, "Hey, that wasn't, you know, whatever."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't even stress enough that part of the relationship, to have trust in one another and to want the best for the other person. I guess I've never really had. Yeah. At some point, I had. I think, you know, I got married and I did have that, but. Yeah, I lasted about 12 years in that game. So yeah. No, I'll tell you an interesting conversation I had with Michelle. We were driving to Las Vegas. We go to Las Vegas a lot, you know, for work, for games, for whatever, right? Yeah. And we're driving, we're just talking, just about nothing, you know, just having fun. And it just like lightning bolted me. And I just looked at her and I said, you know, that no matter what you choose in your life, I will always take care of you. I love that.
And she was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I just want to tell you, if you decide you don't love me anymore and you want to be with somebody else, or like you don't, you know, like I'm not your guy anymore, I will financially take care of you for the rest of your life comfortably. Dang. I will never go after you. I will never rip the kids from you as long as you pay me the same respect. You know what I mean? I will always be an awesome co-parent with you. Like, I just want to make that promise to you and just put that on the table.
Wow.
You know, and that's like, huge. And she, you know, was like, oh, okay, you know, like kind of, you know, she kind of, I can't remember her exact reaction to it, but we ended up talking about it again like a month or two later, where she was like, well, that was interesting you said that. And I'm like, I don't know, I just feel that way. And maybe that's the magic that we have, because I don't want to be with anybody but you. And she feels the same way as far as I know, right? I mean, you never really know. Sure. But I just want to put that on the table, like, you are taken care of because you're my best friend. And then you're my spouse. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love that. You know, that's kind of my attitude towards it. Yeah. That doesn't happen, man. Honestly, that kind of like love and like you said, like, I love you regardless if we work out or not, right? I have enough like respect for you and love for who you are as a person. Like, we may not agree, but like, I'm still always going to like be with you, protect you, whatever, however. That's huge. You know, not a lot of people have that. Yeah, that's tough to. One of the things for me is like, you know, two people willing to see one another that way, right? And realize like you're in a relationship to both give something to one another, right? As opposed to taking. And I think that's what happens a lot of times, like in relationships, like you get into a relationship, like, what can they give me? Right? Like, what are they going to give me? Versus like, you know, how can I serve you? Which is basically what you're saying to your wife. Yeah. Right. Like, if we didn't work out, like, I'm still going to serve you. I'm still going to honor you. I'm still going to, you know, love you. Yeah. Never say a bad word about you. Yeah. You know, so why would I do that? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. It's interesting for me too, when I watch other couples, 'cause like what you're saying, right? Yeah. It's like an insecurity / paranoia, you know, when that stuff starts really creeping in and getting like marinated in a relationship. To me, I kind of sit back and I'm like, this is real bad. This is gonna end badly. Yeah. You know? Yeah, yeah. And it can be very, very simple things. And I've seen it a lot. I've seen it, I guess if you were to know me better, like in my late teens and early 20s, I was more of an observer. You know, I was more of like watching people, and I would watch how people react to things and you know, almost like A/B testing, right? And so kind of when I joke with people too, I'm like A/B testing them, right? I'll say something, see how they react to it. Then I'll push it a little bit further and see how they react to it. Then I'll push it a little bit further and see how they react to it. Then if they have a bad reaction, I'll kind of back off a little bit. Then I'll go back to the last one. Be like, okay, that's their line. That's what they think is funny. That's what they are comfortable with. And then once I've really figured somebody out, you know, which I can probably do in an hour if I really want to, right?
Right.
Then it's like, okay, cool. I kind of understand you. And I know how to interact with you and have a great interaction with you every time we interact.
Right.
Because I know where you're at.
Yeah.
I think I intuitively learned that as a kid, you know? And it was probably because I wanted to make people feel comfortable, you know? And so I wanted to have a lot of friends, and I like having friends, and I like to get on the phone and talk to people. And that's why I love doing podcasts, because it's, you know, I get my friends on here and we just chat and have fun and discuss things that we both feel are important. And I had this ability to where people like will open up to me. Like it's really weird.
Yeah.
And my wife, it makes her laugh her head off, right? So I was literally in Bed Bath & Beyond one time because she dragged my ass in there, right? I'm like, I hate this freaking store. So I'm like smelling these like lotions, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, dude, this lady like comes up to me. She doesn't, you know, she's probably like in her 40s or 50s, right? And I was probably like 25. She's all, hey, you're a big guy. And like, it just makes my wife crack up, right? Because she's like, oh, here they go again. They're going after Mark. And I'm like, yeah, I'm huge. You know, like, I don't even know why I'm in this store. I don't even like being in here. Do you like this store? You know, like I just start talking because I just think it's such a funny interaction. We start going, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, do you play football?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I did. But, you know, it was in the cards for me, you know. She's like, I think you play football. Yeah. I'm like, I really don't play football. She literally unzips her freaking sweater that she has on. She's got a BYU shirt on. She opens up. She goes, do you play for these guys? And I literally like grab her on the shoulder, right? And I'm all, I do not play football. Now inside me, I'm like, but I wish I did. You crazy beast. I'm being, you know, you're like hurt my feelings. Yeah. But then like, you know, and then my wife.
Does that really hurt your feelings? I mean, do you
back then it did.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's, dude, we talked about this a little bit. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I want to talk, because when you were just talking about about how you kind of assess people, right?
Yeah. One
of the things that I've come to learn about you since I've known you is like how smart and creative you are, right? And I'm you know, talking about poetry on the way home from, you know, our drive with the walk group, you know, Dan and Moab. The lady sees you, right? And she sees a huge human, which most people are like, oh yeah, he must play football. But what they don't know is all the deep layers that you have, man. I love you, dude.
Well, thank you, bro.
All the poetry, the, you know, deeper parts of yourself that like, I'm like, when I first got to know you on that trip, that's what I loved.
Yeah.
That you were, I was like, this guy isn't just a big, huge human. Yeah. He is a human that loves other people, very smart, successful. Love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man. For sure.
And I didn't pay him to say that.
no. Those are the things.
I appreciate. Yeah, I tried a lot of things in my life. You know, I was really good at guitar at one point. You know, and wanted to be a songwriter. Started writing poetry. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm semi well-rounded. I guess
you're well-rounded, bro.
You know what I mean? I'm a well-rounded guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, kind of going back to your question about football, I had two dreams in my life. One was to be a rock star, and one was to be an NFL player.
I love that shit.
Right?
Yeah.
And the rock star thing was not good for the lifestyle that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, it would have been, I couldn't have been married. I couldn't have had kids. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I could have, but I would have just had them all over the place. You know, I just wouldn't have been crazy. It's a rock star lifestyle, right?
Yeah, you're having.
Because I would have gone hard, right? I would have been a rock star if I could have been. Now I also can't sing, so.
Like, would you have used drugs, though?
Well, back when I had that dream, I would have said no.
Right.
Right? But like.
But how creative can you get with like certain psychedelics, et cetera?
I don't know. I mean, I was very LDS back in those days, right? So it was like, no, I wouldn't. I would have said back then, I would have said, no, never would use drugs. Absolutely not.
Can we talk about some of that stuff?
Yeah.
So I have never personally done mushrooms, right? But this is
despite me trying to make you do them over and over.
Exactly. So my journey is through the Watt group, and this year has been about self-healing, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously meeting you, I know that you're a huge fan of mushrooms, and so I kind of want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
you know, just a little bit. Your wife, you guys have a really good relationship. Would you say that using mushrooms has like contributed to that relationship growing? Was it better before, or is it better now after using mushrooms together?
It's better after.
better after.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've explained this to a couple of people that have asked, Yeah. The funny thing about mushrooms, I don't really talk about it unless people ask.
I'm asking.
Because I know you're asking, so. Yeah. So her first time she did it, so I went and did it by myself to see what it was like, right? Because she didn't want to go. Because, you grow up thinking that psychedelics are scary and you're going to turn into a bird and jump off a plane. Just crazy, crazy shit, bullshit. You know what I mean? It's just like marijuana, right? It's bullshit what we've been told for 100 years about marijuana.
Yeah, that's all.
So I came home from my first experience and I just sat down there at breakfast and just told her all about it. I was just, I just went a million miles an hour. It was almost overwhelming to her. She's like, oh, and I'm like, the way you feel and the connections that you get with people, I just feel like a hippie talking about this, but I actually understand hippies more now that we've come to this part, right? So after a few weeks, she came to me, or I asked her, and she basically was like, yeah, I think I'll try it with you, but I don't want to do it with strangers. I just want to do it with people we know, right? I said, okay, cool. We'll make that happen. So we made it happen, and we had some people over to the house, and we took them, and you meditate. You kind of you do your intentions, and there's a little bit of a ceremony to it, because you want to respect the medicine. It's not just go party kind of stuff. And we just ended up having this really nice night, and it's very gentle, but you open up your heart and you open up your head to people, right? So and when you do that, you feel a connection to people, and your ego goes away. That's why what open up your head means, right? And you just kind of, you just have nice interactions with people for 10 hours. And during that night, everyone kind of started to go to bed, it's about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And so we end up, it was at my house, so I wanted to make sure everyone was tucked in. And, it's kind of especially when I'm on shrooms, I want to be very hospitable, right?
Physically tucked in?
Oh yeah, I've tucked a few people in. Yeah. I mean, one person gave me a kiss on the forehead just to be funny, you know what I mean? But I do that sober.
Did you give a little milk and
No, I just tucked him in, made him all feel good. They're like, get the hell out of here, just night,
Love that.
And so we go to our bedroom, and we're laying in there, and she just goes, I understand you better now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I feel like when I walk into a room, you light up. And I couldn't really see that because, we've been married 18 years, been together 19. Saying I love you doesn't pack the same punch it does when you're dating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a moment anymore. It's so common, even though we both mean it. We mean it to the nth degree too. And so we sat there and we talked for a while about how she feels my love for her, and how it's just real and it's deep and it's for her. And even though I love other people at different levels, because love's a broad type word, right? It's a spectrum word.
Yeah.
She's my 100, where most people fall into 40, 50, 60, and I have a few higher than that, right? But really, really she's my number one. Yeah. And so that was that night. And it was very nice for her. She connected with some other people. It was nice. So then about a month or two later, we went on our anniversary, right? Yeah. And we did another journey up there, just her and I, which is the best, right? It's the best doing it with your spouse. And we just talked about our kids, and you'll know this one day, hopefully. But I go, the first part of it, I just get so much energy. I'm just this is so fun, blah, 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 blah. So we were actually watching a 9 Inch Nails Woodstock concert on YouTube while we were kind of cleaning up the kitchen, because you're kind of letting it hit, right? Yeah. And I'm like, babe, watch this. And I'm like, look at this concert. And she's like, she could care less about 9 Inch Nails, right? And I'm like, no, you got to watch Trent Reznor. He's a genius, an actual genius. And I'm like, look at these guys. I'm like, see that guitarist? He's trying so damn hard to impress Trent Reznor right now. Right. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, watch. And I made her watch this concert, and she's like, how do you think this stuff or watch this stuff? I'm like, no, you got to watch everything. I'm like, look at the crowd. They have mud all over him, right? And it's this, because he's a performance artist, right? He's such a maniacal, crazy dude. Like, he fires bandmates all the time. It's like this whole thing, right? And she's just like staring at me, and I can't stop talking about it, right? I'm like, look at this, look at this. Look at the guitarist is like, oh God, Trent, look, I'm doing the G chord as hard as I can. Don't fire me, you know? And I'm being funny.
Yeah.
And
but you're seeing this perspective, right?
oh, it's just like this whole orchestra that I'm watching. I can hear every instrument in this thing. And just from the crowd to the way that he sings and he changes things in the song, because I know their music really well because I'm a fan. And she's, so my point with that though is she like understood how my brain thinks better because she just watched me unfiltered, just like actually say my thoughts aloud.
Gotcha.
So normally I would just watch that concert and think that same stuff and be like, oh, I like this song. But like I was actually just speaking every single thought I had. Okay. And it was coming out of me like a fire hose.
So that's how you normally think?
All the time.
Would you say that, okay, so then when you're having, you know, shrooms in your system, this is enhancing that same, okay.
Yeah.
Because for me, like I've been using cannabis since about 2004 in the NFL, and off and on. But like for the last year, I've used it consistently as a way to heal. You know, and one of the things I notice is that my brain is wired differently when I have THC in my system, to whereas, like you're saying, I can see people actually like why they do what they do. In some ways, it's really funny, right? Yeah. You can sit back and kind of watch, like, say, you go to the gym and you know, and then you have a little THC, and you see the kind of persona people put on, right? The ego that it unveils the ego. You're like, oh, there's the ego, right? There's the brain. There's the side of you that is trying to flex or trying to show something or trying to
hold back.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you're seeing the music, you're like, the guy doing it. See, my brain doesn't always see it that way, but under cannabis, I can see the person's reasons and why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah. Right. So, I think you and your wife, that experience you guys are having with mushrooms is just, and I've never done them, but heightened, right? Where you can actually see not only the way that why she does what she does and why you do what you do, but also on a deeper level, understanding our darkness and our fears and our love and our light, and you can kind of just see everything about that person, right? That's what cannabis does for me, the plant, right? Yeah. And so I think any of these plants have similar DNA structures in terms of like our ability to really break down the bullshit and to get down to the nuts and bolts of like who we are as humans, who we are as people, and like what we actually, why we do what we do. Yeah. And a lot of it is conditioned and programmed, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But so like when you use these substances, they connect you to a different way of thinking. And that's like, in my opinion, that's like the correct way to look, right?
Oh, dude, I think it's the correct way to look too. It's really hard because it's you experience these things on plant medicine, right? And I think what people need to really grasp, this shit grows in the ground. This is not drugs per se, right? Yeah. It's drugs like caffeine's drugs. It's drugs like protein's drugs. It's drugs like carbohydrates are drugs. You could literally go up in the mountains and freaking pluck these things out if you knew what you were looking at and actually eat some mushrooms.
Yeah. Food is a drug.
Yeah, and it's like if you believe in God and you believe God created the earth, you believe God put these things on here for us to consume.
They're for us.
You cannot break that. Right. You know, you cannot break that equation. Right. And you know, for someone who left a religion and kind of like went all the way down to zero, almost atheist. Yeah. Well, I was atheist for a while. Kind of doing plant medicine has kind of really opened my mind up to like, no, there's a possibility that this is Mother Earth. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there is forces out there because, and I do discount everything because you are hallucinating a tad, right? Sure. And it is having I should say you're having a chemical reaction in your body. Right. So when you do shrooms, you have to like reflect on them later on. Sure. Right? Sure. And that's where the growth and the learning for me happens is when you reflect on the experience and then kind of tie it all together, right? Right, right. But my point with it is it's like I want to like, dude, I would take everyone on a journey. Yeah. Because it's like this actually will help you. Right. This isn't you know, something that's going to scramble your brain like methamphetamine or cocaine. Like these are plants, like you're saying, and we're, you know, mushrooms. You're just putting them in some tea or some chocolate. Like you're taking the actual mushroom and incorporating it in your system. That then helps us to connect, in my opinion, to nature, to what we are. Like, you know, I actually want to ask you about the leaving the church. And that kind of stuff, because I personally did that as well. Yeah. You know, I was active in the church
age 21 and left when I was about 31.
Yeah.
Which actually was a large part of why I got divorced as well. And that's, you know, that whole debacle. And so I look at your relationship with your wife, and you guys were able to stay intact, go through really an ego death.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Audrey Marcus talks about how hard that is, right? Like how hard it is to like go through something where you are convinced 100% of what you believe. And he said it like this once. He said, before you're willing to ask someone to change, realize that, and I'm paraphrasing, but realize that they're going to have an ego death. Like they got to kill that version of themselves, right? Of like all the things they think. And then keep in mind, they have a culture and a people and a system that like their parents and their peers and everyone else is all inclusive in that way of thinking. And so when you leave that way of thinking, whether it's religion or politics or whatever, you get pushback from those people, and they make you feel a certain way, right? Like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
When in fact, you're just following your intuition. You're following like your higher path. And dude, I know you, like you're an awesome guy. And I guarantee at first it felt like you were following, you know, some evil force or something to leave the church. And that's the way I felt. So my question is like, how did you make that decision? Did plants, you know, play into that at all? And obviously you're highly educated, so I know you did some research on your
yeah. So now, to answer your question, so plant medicine had nothing to do with it. So I left the church like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. So so I would have been about 28 when I left the church. It all came from studying the whole thing. The thing that's odd with me, I'll put a little disclaimer in there. I still love parts of the LDS church.
Me too.
I'm extremely happy and grateful for the way that I was raised. I think it kept me out of a lot of trouble. And not that like I'd be getting in trouble, but it kept me in situations where I was safe, right? And now that I became older, you know, in my 20s, I was able to like make real decisions for myself, you know what I mean, without like taking massive risk, right? Like a 15-year-old drinking, there's a lot of risk there. The addiction levels for a 15-year-old versus someone I drank the first time when I was 28. Like it's impossible for me to become an alcoholic. Right. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And it's not that big a deal.
Right.
And
it's like you do something.
Yeah. You go to a party,
fun.
get drunk. It's no big deal.
Sure.
I might not drink it again for a month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you started drinking at age 28 after you left the church or after you stopped going.
Yeah.
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 See, a lot of people do it the exact opposite, right? Like they leave the church and they're like, oh, I need to find all these things out. Right. Yeah. Like off the deep end.
Yeah. I think I'd mentally left for probably 18 months before I even tried it.
Okay.
And so,
so what was the biggest factor for you to kind of like, decide to make a life change and get out of your
when I was on my mission, I was a super studier, like every morning, right? So, and to be honest, I had a couple of companions that were like, wanted to sleep in until like 9, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I would just study like crazy. I was like addicted to it. I still am. Like if I go to a movie by myself, I sit there on my phone and I have Wikipedia open the whole time and I just look up actors and I see what other movies they've been in, who the director is. Like I have odd, stupid knowledge just packed in this brain. Yeah. I just love constantly. I don't even know. It's just like nature for me. I just do it. It's not like I have an obsession or, I just do it. Right. And so I studied everything. I read the Book of Mormon probably 10 times. I read every single approved book that was on the list for my mission president. I memorized every single thing. I became a master teacher, whatever level it was in your mission, you know, of memorization. I got to the point where I started memorizing the Book of Mormon chapters because there was nothing left to memorize. And I understood.
Okay.
So then when I came home, I saw the hypocrisy, right? Many, 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 many layers of hypocrisy. And I'd go into more detail if we weren't on a podcast because I don't want to call people out.
Sure.
But the way that the church would handle things was just like insanely, you know, it's just hypocrisy.
Sure.
And so then I would get into it with bishops about it. And they would argue with me and I'd argue with them and I'd end up being right.
Okay.
You know,
was it mostly about historical stuff? Like,
no, it's mostly how they handle disciplinary things now.
Okay.
And like how their standards really aren't standards for certain people. And it just, you know, but it turned into, so polygamy was the first thing that I got really hung up on.
Interesting.
On my mission, I was told that Joseph Smith was sealed to all of his wives after he died. and they just sealed them to him because of whatever, right?
Okay.
Their husband had died and he was unfaithful, or he was unworthy of going to the celestial kingdom.
Right.
So these beautiful sisters had to be sealed to, you know, Joseph Smith after he died.
Yeah.
Well, that turns out to be a bunch of bullshit.
Bunch of bullshit. Yeah, sure.
And so,
and that's hard. That's
Yeah.
that's a death. I mean, the fact that you were told that, right?
yeah,
That's tough.
And so I started studying like crazy. And this is before the essays came out. This is before any of that stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's right before that stuff.
Right.
It was before the CES letter came out.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll tell you, I was in my basement, I was reading. And I guess you can call it an epiphany or whatever. And I just realized, I'm like, I don't believe in a God that believes in polygamy on any level.
Interesting.
I just don't.
And see, I think that's important to honor yourself, you know, kind of going back to that. We have so many similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, I love the church.
Yeah.
I look at it as a pathway. Just being back in Nebraska this last weekend, that's where I joined the church. So I have so many fond memories. I had a patriarch that I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
You know, this guy we had so many spiritual experiences. I mean, I'll just give you one. We were out one time hunting, and he says, "We got to go." I says, "Where are we going?" He says, "We got to go." So we jump in the truck and we drive down the road. We're flying, you know, he's hitting jumps, and we're, you know, bouncing around the truck, and we fly into this field. He jumps out and he slams the truck and he says, "Grab the winch." And I, "What are you talking about?" So I get in the back of the truck and I grab this winch, I walk it over to him, and there's a cow on the ground that has a calf hanging out about a quarter of the way. And he grabs the leg, says, "Give me that," and he ties some leather around it. Anyways, he pulls the calf out. And it was the coolest thing ever, right? Like, I see this experience. And I said, "How did you know that?" He says, "God told me." And that was this man. I mean, just everything. He would talk about the angels that were there at his home, right? And I remember the feeling when I got a patriarchal blessing, which is something you get in the LDS church, right?
Yeah.
Did you get your patriarchal blessing?
Yeah, I was a teenager. Yeah.
Okay. And I still actually will use that to this day. Really, truly. Like, I look at like the things that were said in that. And so here's kind of how I take my take on the church or any other religions out there is like, dude, there is truth in all of it. All religions have truth, right? And I think what you have to do is find like your truth, right? And I think a lot of people are scared because may not be the truth that everyone else is thinking. For example, like, you have to be 100% committed to the LDS church. That's just not true.
Yeah.
Your truth may be that, hey, my truth is now to follow this. And as long as you're following your heart, you're doing good, you're doing all that kind of stuff, like, do it, man.
Yeah.
Find out what's true for you, right? Because we don't know. Like, let's be honest, we don't know. Like, what's after this life? No one knows. And you honored yourself, I honored myself, and dude, it cost me a marriage.
Yeah.
You know, truly, it cost me a marriage, and it still is costing me. I feel bad for any father that has to kind of deal with the things that I've dealt with as a father, because I've been seen and black labeled as a dad because I'm not LDS, right? Or I'm not practicing, I'm not active by my ex and all of her family and everything else. I'm not badmouthing. I'm just being honest. It's a fact, right? Like, it's very hard to show up in those settings for me, like baptisms and things, without feeling a sense of shame or not belongingness, right? Yeah. And actually, that's why, to your kind of thing too, that's why I left the church. The history for me was not conscious, right? They were not being honest. I actually met with Brian Hells. He's the leading authoritarian on polygamy. And I met with him for 3 hours in his home. And the one thing that I got done with that was he couldn't answer half of my questions. The only thing he kept saying was have faith. And yes, we do know that's true, but we don't know all the details, such as, you know, Fanny Alger, you know, the marriage there with the 12-year-old. There was just things that I was very uncomfortable with, and I'd been told something else. And then the culture was so different in Utah than it was outside of Utah. So for me, it was really hard. There was kids that had committed suicide in my ward, and my phone's going off. And I thought there was a real problem. In fact, I still think there is. I would love to see the church. The one thing that I think that the LDS church in Utah is so predominant and so strong, and has so much influence, that it could really change the way that we're treating our children, right? Yeah. The way that the youth is being taught things. because we can't have a culture where kids are committing suicide based on not going on missions, not
feeling perfect.
Yeah, not feeling. It's bullshit, man. It's all fucking lie.
Well, I feel like they're not addressing that either.
Right.
Like, it's time to look.
It's time to look.
It's time to look in the mirror and come up with some stuff.
100%.
I'll tell you the nail in the coffin for me, or maybe it was more of a confirming truth, right? It's funny because you said Fanny Alger, right? So Fanny Alger, for anyone that's listening who doesn't know this, right? She was like a maid or what the heck was she? Oh, she was a nanny. She was a nanny for the family.
For the family. And
so he ends up getting sealed to her, right? And the church puts an essay out about it. She was 14, right? When the got sealed. When the church put the essay out, they said she was a girl almost 15. And I was like, bitch, that's a lie.
Let's be honest.
14, say it.
Yeah.
You can't even be honest.
Right. And that's one of the leading questions in, the temple recommend.
Yeah, right? Are you honest?
Which I love the temple. I absolutely loved. I think I actually served in the temple in San Diego for 2 years. Loved it. Beautiful. So much light and love. But like to your point, I mean, the temple question, are you honest with your dealings with your fellow men? Is that honest to put out messages and information that's incorrect? Yeah. So there's huge issues there where, people are being shamed. I remember me when I left the church, I was being shamed for bringing up historical things that I was uncomfortable with. And as if it weren't true, people were shaming me, giving me the feelings that, that I need to have faith and that, these things that we're talking about aren't well known. And I'm like, no, we can read journal entries, right? Like we can actually understand historical information.
Oh yeah.
Right. And understand it. Like we don't have to lie about it anymore. And there's too much out there on the internet that, that people don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Like people know now.
We're acting like this was like 1,000 years ago. And they were like, tapping this stuff into like scrolls.
Right.
There's so much information. This is 150 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, not that long ago. Yeah.
And there's so much information that like Google actually has been uploading books for 20 years, digitalizing books, right? And they can analyze them, they can break them down. There's all these things, all these records, and it's like this massive data upload that's happening, right? And I think a lot of that stuff the church has had to deal with because it's just smacking them straight in the face.
For sure.
And I think to give the church grace, I think there's a long period of time there where they didn't have the information and they didn't have the details and they were just like, hey, we got to live on faith because we don't really know all this stuff.
Right.
And you still kind of do. We don't know everything about Joseph Smith. We don't know what actually happened.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, that's where your gut has to come in.
Sure.
Living on faith is following your gut.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
My faith and I is like a lot of people when I left the church will go, well, what's the most spiritual experience that you've ever had? And I'm like, you don't want to know. In my basement, I heard in my head, the most lightning rod moment was, I do not believe in a God that would institute polygamy.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
That is a vision and inspiration, whatever you want to call it. The most spiritual experience I've had regarding doctrine was that moment, and I'll never forget it. Do you want me to say my bosom was burning during a church meeting? Like, what were you expecting me to say? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the reality is that the church is still practicing polygamy in the temple, right? Which is a hard concept for people to understand. Yeah. And it's just, again, it's factual. So people do have to understand that, some of the things they believe may in fact not be true.
Yeah.
Right. And as long as you're okay with all the information, then do the thing, right? Whatever religion, but, or whatever belief or whatever thing you're following, right?
Yeah.
Religion has a large impact on people, right?
It shapes cultures. Look at Utah.
My goodness, yeah. I think it's one of the most dangerous things that has ever been invented. Personally, it can be, right? It causes so much contention, so much wars, so many differences. As opposed to like, dude, we live on a blue planet in the middle of the universe. Like, we are governed by rules and things and laws that are way beyond human understanding, and for me, getting into Eastern thought and even plant medicine and everything else is like, there is something beyond description, beyond words that we can get into if we just kind of allow ourselves to open up and say, what don't I know?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think back from our conversation talking about football to being here. And again, we kind of have those stereotypes as football players being dumb jocks. And I already, talked about how, right? Like you and I are both different. that there's so much when we just kind of let go and just say, I don't know. I really, truly don't. Like, I don't know everything. I don't know what I'm even doing on this planet. Sometimes I do ask that question. Not sometimes, a lot of times I ask that question.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is my why? What is my purpose? And we don't have answers to every single one, but we do know that we're part of something really magical, right? Like, seriously, we live in the Garden of Eden. Like, we don't need to wait for it. It's here. You know, like, look at our earth. You know, I'm like, travel, like, go and see some waterfalls and some like places and like beautiful animals and kingdoms. Like, dude, the only one fucking this thing up is the human beings, right? By creating, you know, countries and yes, everything. Yeah. The mass pollutions and all those stuff. That's kind of where my focus now is reshifted. Dude, joining this WOT group has really changed my life. Cause actually for the first 3 months before I joined, I was already getting on these, you know, again, everything's happening for us. Like, I already felt the need to change. I'd already started using cannabis, right, as a way to heal the CTE and stuff that I feel like I have from the NFL. And now I realize, like, everything was happening for me. I joined the WOT group, right, which Jimmy has a special sauce, man. And I didn't know it. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a bunch of dudes, like, you know, measuring cocks. You know, like, this is how much money I make and what's network, you know, I don't know, whatever. But it's not. It's all guys that want to be better in every, you know, facet of their life, and they're trying, right? And then one of the magical things for me is this becoming better people, but then also opening ourselves up to possibility. And Jimmy's allowing a lot of us to do that. Yeah. Right? Like, going into the plant medicines after we do crazy shit like jump off the cliff. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. For guys even just interested in that, it has been life-changing.
I'll tell you one thing, even to give a nod to the LDS Church, right?
Yeah.
One of their sayings, right, is search, ponder, and pray. Right? Yeah. If you switch prayer with meditation, it's like the perfect thing for everyone to do. It's like what you need to do all the time.
Right.
Like, guys like you and me that joined this group, we were searching for, well, maybe we were, whether you knew it or not, unconsciously or consciously, you're searching for like-minded guys that help you be better, right? 100%. And we go and meet all these bros, right? And that's kind of the ponder part. Like, oh, I got to kind of think about this. What is it? This is interesting. Why am I having this really good reaction to like 50 bros? There's not one dude in this group I don't like.
Yeah,
there should be. There should be 5 that I like. Yeah,
you
know what I mean.
And there should have been some fights and some, you know, because alpha males, right? We're all together in the same, you know, space, and no, there was none of that.
None of it.
No contention. In fact, quite the opposite. Grown ass men, all, you know, successful in their own right, coming together, being vulnerable, owning our shit, right? Like talking about things that are bothering us, things that we want to do better. I think that vulnerability is what society's missing. Yeah. Right. Like, we're missing the actual connection. Like, how you doing today? I'm good. How are you? Like, those are the exchanges we're having in society, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how we've been programmed. But you know, you brought up meditation. One of the things, and we talked about mindfulness and stuff, but one of the things about joining this brotherhood and about being mindful and everything else, like, we're only here for a limited time, right? Meditation and mindfulness can be a way that we can, like, all slow down and kind of see what's going on. For me, I got into meditation as a way to heal. You know, what I never expect is it for to give me, like, the connection to other people, right? Like, I can actually feel the energy within me is the same energy that you have. So it's a spiritual aspect, right? Actually, I was just with my friend Nick in Nebraska, and he is the one who sent me a book called Zen: The Art of Happiness while I was LDS. And I read that book, and it was basically this mindset. This guy breaks his neck, and he says it was the best thing that ever happened to him. And that was really curious to me at the time. I was like, how is that the best thing that ever happened to you, right? But then I came on to learn, come to find out that what he meant by that is that everything is happening to you in life. Literally everything is happening for you. You're getting broken neck, whatever it is. You and I leaving our religions and doing all, like, that's happening for you, right? Even going to the mission, right? And being brought up LDS, all that stuff was preparing you to where you're at now. And it's like, I think when you're mindful and you're meditative, when you do meditation, to me, the difference between meditation and prayer is meditation is a way for me to just surrender, to like have a physical death in the moment and allow my body just to relax, breathe in and out, and to surrender to God. It's me listening to God, as opposed to me telling God what I want, right? Like praying,
exactly.
right? Like
I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. So you're just sitting there, and I think that's also what the plants do, right? They're able to, in many ways, like when you get a high on THC or something, that first initial bit can be a little overwhelming, but then when the THC kind of calms down, it does exactly what it needs to for you, right? And so it gives you that. And I know we talked about, you had an intense experience recently with some people you guys did a ceremony with, and but it's always going to give you exactly what you need. Even that experience you just had, it might have been too much, quote unquote, for some people, but like it was actually the experience you guys needed, right? I'd imagine.
Absolutely.
So life is happening for us, man, and this meditation, for me, that's I can't think of another thing in my life that has been more defining than meditation. Truly, it's saved my life. Okay, I talk about that for a minute.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So when I first got done with the NFL, I had a lot of concussions, about 13 blacked out, right, in the NFL, and then just too many to count how many I had during practices and games and everything. My first open kickoff, it was versus the Raiders. So we're playing the Raiders Monday Night Football, and opening kickoff, they kick it off, and this juggernaut, about 270-pound guy, runs down and he smacks me right underneath the face mask and right in my chest. Just, and I'm on the wedge and I'm blocking for the running back, and he comes down and blows me up. Right, I lose consciousness. I was able to luckily like stay up and like do the block and whatever. He didn't get to the running back. But I got done, and that was my first like real big concussion, right? I remember I felt just like in a bubble the rest of the game, and then I went on, to play 7 years, and over those 7 years, tons of concussions, right? So I got done, and I was looking for healing. My brain was fucked, like I couldn't think straight. I couldn't, a memory loss. I was losing where I was at. I would go to the grocery store and come home without the groceries. I'd leave them in the grocery cart. I remember one time with my son, I was going to get balloons for his birthday, and I literally got lost. I had to call my wife and say, you got to come pick me up. This is when I'm, 29 years old, 28 years old, towards the end of my career, where it was really, really getting bad, blacking out in games where I couldn't even get out of my stance without blacking out. Really bad shit, right?
Dude, honestly, while you were saying that, how scared were you during that time?
Dude, terrified, Mark. Like for real, straight up, like I had built what I wanted. Right, I'd become the man in terms of the football player that I wanted. Now I still wanted to do more, but I really learned the game. I learned the techniques. I was one of the best, right, in terms of run stopping, everything else. I could go in after Jamal Williams, a Pro Bowler, and still my coach said to me, and it was the biggest blessing in my life when he said at the time, was that there's no fall off. He's like, I love having you in the game, Ryan, because like when Jamal goes in, and then you go in, like I don't see a fall off, right? Like the game stays the same. It's not like, oh my God, Ryan's in, he's gonna get fucking murdered out there. So that was a compliment, and to then have my brain not functioning and working, oh my God, terrifying. Like I was, at home and in this house that I built, and I built this beautiful home. I had like this awesome, beautiful property with trees and a pool and a rock slide and just beautiful. And then to not be able to fully enjoy it because I was lightheaded, because I was unable to like remember who I was at times at nighttime. Just so many experiences that I was having at the time that was terrifying. Right.
See, we've talked about this a few times, in some detail. And every time, dude, when I think about it later, I'm like, I think my biggest fear in life is losing my mind.
Yeah.
And you're like a late 20-year-old, like, oh yeah, like staring at it, or even just bathing in it. Right. You're like, man, what if I'm 35 years old and I just like, I'm a vegetable drilling,
Well, so what did I do? I went to the trainer. I remember we were playing the Bears, and I was blacking out. And in practice, I'd been blacking out. And I went up to my trainer. I said, something's not right. Like my head is fucked. I'd had a concussion during the preseason, and then practice that week. The next week, I was able to to go on and practice, which by the way is a joke, at least at the time, you know, right? They'd tell me to remember 3 things, and I still remember them: apple car truck, right? You know, remember those 3 things and come back, and usually your teammates like, hey dude, you know, apple car truck. So you'd say it back to them. So I got accepted, you know, to come back play, and they made you do a little test or whatever, like Monday morning, right? But it was nothing. And I was blacking out that week during practice. And that next game, same thing. They actually took me out of the game, and they told me to go in the locker room and get my heart tested. So they put, you know, the EKG readers on my chest. Oh yeah, you probably just have anxiety. I'm like, no, it's not anxiety, guys, right? So then I started seeing neuropsychologist, you know, psychologist, like anyone who I could get my hands on from the NFL, right? By the way, from the NFL, to help me understand what was I dealing with. I didn't know, right? There was a possibility at the time in my mind that, you know, okay, maybe this is just anxiety, or maybe it's just a phase. But dude, I can only say that it was the darkest moment in my life. I just thought, there's no way I can keep living like this, right? Got done, and I was terrified of this brain that now I had. And so my wife and I sold everything off, moved up to Utah, right? Then the culture in Utah, you know, and in fact, some of the hard things were me just going to church, because all the noise and the light sensitivity. I couldn't even stay in church or sacrament meetings because my mind, I couldn't be in spaces where there was lots of loud noises, light sensitivity. These are all symptoms of CT, right? At the same time, I got the book from Zen, The Art of Happiness, start getting into that a little bit. And then I was online, and I was like, okay, looking for ways to heal. And I typed in how to heal brain injuries through, you know, concussions. And pops up tm.org. I click on it. Then puts in my information and ask, you know, if I want to learn meditation. I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll do that. So I put it in, and I get an email back from Mark Stevens, a local director here in Utah, and he invites me to his home. So I go to his house, and I'm like, you know, skeptical, but whatever. He talks about the practice of TM, Transcendental Meditation, and from that point, I just knew, man. Kind of like I knew, you know, like the church when I first heard it, that it was right for me at the time. Like, this is the right thing to do, right? So I did the whole thing. There's a ceremony. There's, you know, he teaches you a mantra, and then after you kind of learn that, he practices with you and teaches you how to incorporate it into your nervous system. About 30 days after learning this mantra and this transcendental meditation, I then became a total different, I had a different brain. My brain started working on the circuitry, right? Like the wiring, the memories, the different things. And I could function. Holy shit, bro. I could actually go and sit, you know, in a noisy area for a shorter period, not a long period of time, but I could actually go into it and feel okay. You know, so then after meditation, I got, you know, working with a psychologist and a neuropsychologist, and specifically a lady who worked with Tom Brady's group, Alina Fong, Dr. Alina Fong, and she taught me through functioning MRI how to use my brain, like through puzzles and different things, to then help start healing it in some way, or at least keep things intact and further digressing, right? Because I'm confident I have CTE. I mean, there's proving like all the brains that are being donated right now to Boston, like anyone who played even college ball probably has it. And then you played in the NFL, you know, like I did for 7 years. And there's a high likelihood that like you have this condition, this protein in the brain, right? It is the thing that I anchor to in the morning, not because I'm spiritual, although that is one of the reasons like it became spiritual for me, right? But I do meditation. The first thing I do in the morning is meditate, and the first thing I do at night is meditate, and even sometimes during the day, because it's the thing that keeps me sane. It's the thing that has healed my brain. And then to push it further, it became the thing that left me no choice but to leave the LDS church. Truly, I just knew deep down that there was a bigger calling for me, right? That I was being limited to this kind of box that I was put in with the LDS church, right? And all the shame and guilt of certain behaviors like word of wisdom and, you know, just stupid topics that to me don't make a difference on you as a human, that they were really like, you know, making you feel as if you were going to go to hell if you didn't go on a mission, or, you know, used alcohol, just all the things, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a bad message, right? Like, you know, you converted at 21.
Yeah.
Right. So you're kind of a success story, right?
Yeah.
But
then, I was a poster child for them.
Oh yeah. But then you go to church for years and it's like, well, if you don't go to mission, you won't amount to anything. And it's like, well, I didn't go because I didn't join till after. Right. It's like, well, I don't understand why that doesn't seem like a mixed message to people on the inside. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we BYU was never an option for me. Right. At a young age, I was a partier, right? But then after I converted when I was 21, it's interesting because I was at Nebraska. I was like, I could have now, a couple years later, I could have went to BYU, but I would have never had any of the life experiences that I'd had in Nebraska, right? The biggest thing that I've learned in my life is to realize that whatever you're going through is always the thing that is meant for you, and that all the things that that seem at the time to be like something that's going to tear you down are actually the things that build you up. In fact, you need to be torn down sometimes, right? Like the breakdown for me, let me go back to that. The mental breakdown I had on the field, right, in terms of my brain, became the biggest blessing. It's kind of like Dwayne Johnson says, the worst thing that ever happened to him has been the best thing. The worst thing that ever happened to me, almost losing my mind, has led me now to a meditative path that, bro, I'll be forever grateful. Yeah. Because for me, it has changed the way I view the world, the planet, my just existence, Well,
there's simple principles, right? Like you cannot understand the good if you haven't experienced the bad. Yeah. It's like billionaires' kids, right? Right. Not that I know anybody, we'll just classify them as a person X, right? Sure. Like, dude, if you've lived on private jets your whole life and like, you know what I mean? Like you can just have anything and everything and just this massive abundance, dude. Yeah. How are you supposed to have empathy for people? Right. You know what I mean? So true. It's very, very difficult because even if your dad gives away $1 billion and you go on a couple safari things, where you're like giving kids shirts or whatever, right? Right. You're never really actually sacrificing anything. Yep.
It's so true. I mean, unless you've gone through it personally, how can you even know what it feels like? Yeah. Right. But you've been through some things and like, yeah, man, all this stuff is meant. In fact, that's my opinion about life. Like we're all, I kind of believe in forms of reincarnation where, we're experiencing this and we've already experienced tons of different life experiences. But this one here is meant for us here in this time. And it's up to us to kind of navigate it. That's true. Like we get to make choices along the way, like, left or right. But ultimately, like this experience that you're having in this physical form, and we talked about at the beginning, like this huge form that you have, right? And in my huge form, like, we were meant to be in these bodies, we were meant to have the experiences and the associations that we have because everything's happening for us. And this is part of the design of the universe to have you experience everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to, and I love that. I mean, one of the points that, we're just smashing is just like, be honest with yourself. Yeah. And just enjoy every day. Yeah. Just, like if you look at a lot of my Instagram posts, I have a hashtag on there I use YOLO. Yeah. Right. Which I used to make fun of. Right. Came up with this stupid ass word. And now I'm like, no, I get it. Like every day I need to have fun. I need to have fun every single day. And like, Amen. One of the things I do is just say yes to everything. Right. Unless it's like immoral or unethical. Right. But if it's scary, I'll say yes to it. If it's like, like we went hiking, that last hike that I went on. Right. Yeah. I hate hiking. I legitimately hate hiking. Right. As we're like walking up that ski area, I'm just like, like I don't want to do this. But honestly, dude, like, we get to that first lake and it's like we're just chatting and I'm like, oh, I do actually love being with my friends. You know what I mean? So I just latch onto that. We go all the way to the top, and before we went to the peak, dude, I was like, man, I'm gonna tell these guys I'm not going to the peak. I don't feel like it, Yeah. And I'm like, you little bitch, right? Get your ass up to the peak, It's just like, okay, let's go, boom. And then, but when we got up there, dude, how much fun was that?
It was so beautiful.
So beautiful.
And you would have missed that.
I would have missed it. Yeah. And I would have regretted it. Yeah. And we screamed freedom. Which is an inside thing between all of us. Like it was fun, dude. It was just. And like the day ended up being great. And there's wild things that happen. And I think that's why I like to joke with people so much. It's just like, I'm like, dude, let's go. Yeah. Like I'm probably one of the first guys in people's lives that like, if they do something stupid, I will make fun of them like in the moment. Right. Yeah. But I do it with just enough love that they're like, oh, you asshole. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, yeah, that's stupid. You know what I mean? And I love when people do it back to me. Right. So like the other day, Nick and Michelle, my wife and Nick Halland, right? Yeah. We were starting a journey. And I said something and they go, what was that, Whispers? And I was like, what? And they're all, we can't hear what you're saying. And they were totally messing with me because I'm so freaking loud, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, it like got in my head.
Hilarious.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
And they kept on calling me Whispers, right? And then
Whisper?
Yeah, and then Melanie was there. And I'm like, Melanie, you have to be my thimble. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, from Inception. You know what I mean? And Nick's like, I can't understand what he's saying. And I was just like, ah, you know what I mean? Like, it was so funny because I actually do like to be teased.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just like the thing with you, right? Like going back to a journey, like when my mind's open. When I came up with this, with the Ryan with the question mark, right?
It's hilarious.
I'm literally sitting there. I was thinking about you, right? And they were all on the tramp talking. I was sitting to the side. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, I wonder what Ryan's up to. He's up in Alaska because you just posted those pictures of you guys drinking out the glacier. Yeah. And I'm just like, I mean, it's just spinning a million miles an hour. And I was like, I wonder why his name's Ryan. Because your name's spelled R-Y-O-N.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could just see every damn teacher in his life going, Ryan? And as they're saying it, it comes out perfectly. And you're just being like, present, you know what I mean?
Right. And that's always actually been a thing for sure.
I know.
Yeah, it's wait, is it pronounced? It's like, yeah, it's just Ryan. You know?
Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I just look at these like 4 or 5 people. I can't remember the trap, and I go, you guys know Ryan's pissed off at his mom? And they're like, what? And I go, he's furious. He's freaking furious. You know, his name is actually R-Y-O-N ? And they're like, what is he talking? And then I go, and then I'm like waiting for him. I'm like, you got to do it. You got to say it. And they go, Ryan? And I'm like, yes.
You nailed it.
And they start dying laughing, right? And we just like joking. You know, I'm like, he's not really mad at his mom. I just, you know, and we start going over the whole thing, right? Yeah. And then I think didn't I Instagram you that night at some point? Just like say it to you, like, I got a joke for you when you get back or something funny, dude.
Yeah, and I think you said something like, don't hate me for this or whatever. Like,
Well, one of the people there, right, was like, oh, dude, you can't say that, man. That'll upset him. And I'm like, no, it's not. That won't upset him at all. Yeah. I know for a fact it won't.
It's totally true.
Yeah. You know, and then like, I couldn't wait to tell you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I love that stuff, right? It's just this funny thing between us now, right? It's like, oh, Ryan, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just one of those things, right? And it's like in 10 years from now, right? Say you moved to Costa Rica or something, right? We didn't communicate as much, and all of a sudden I see you, right? Or we get together and it's like, Ryan? And we just laugh our asses off.
I love
you know what I mean?
You.
Yeah. I just love moments like that.
I've actually really come to love your humor, man. Seriously, like you just make everything, you know, fun and light, and love to joke around with people and everything else. So
I do, man. I do. Well, hey, we probably got to wrap this bad boy up. So I ask all my guests and my friends, I want to hear your best 2 minutes of advice that you would give your kid, anybody, you're on your deathbed. I got to get this out. You got 2 minutes.
Okay. God, that's a loaded question because there's so much. But the thing that I would say is the best advice I've ever had is to always follow your intuition. Always follow your heart. And then you said something, always say yes to the things that are hard, right? There's so many things in our life that we don't do based on, you know, like our brain telling us it's going to kill us or whatever it is, right? You should always step into your fears. And it's super tough. But the thing is everyone does it. It's not like you're special, right? I'm the only one that feels this way. No, everyone gets scared. Everyone has fear. The difference is the people who step into that fear, right? So my advice to my kids or to anyone is to follow your heart. Like, you are here for a reason, right? Like, you were designed for a reason, and to follow that. And then to realize, like, to say yes more than no to those things that are hard, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Because those things are always going to lead to the most rewarding, fulfilling things. I mean, you and I jumping off a cliff, right? You're the first one to do it. And I think we both on the way down knew deep in our hearts that we were probably going to say no to that, right? Just because it just seemed like something we didn't need to do. But then after we got there, we realized, like, we can't say no to that. Say yes to that. And dude, amen to that, bro. Like, how awesome is it that we said yes to that? And we did it. Because had we had not, I don't even know. I may not even be here, dude. Honestly. Who knows what life would have spun if you had said no to jumping off the cliff, right? Or any of these kind of things that are hard for us to do in life. So,
absolutely, my friend. No, that was a great moment. I mean, I've told the story on the podcast a few times, so I'll spare the listeners. But no, it bonded you and me for sure. There's a picture of me and you just standing there, right? Yeah. You got your harness on. I think it was right before you went.
Yeah.
And I love that picture. I mean, I posted on Instagram, and it's just like,
too, yeah.
I'm like,
Well, we have battled together now.
Yeah.
Because I looked at that I took that the same way that I would have taken a game or a wrestling match or any competitive thing that I do, that you got to block out all the negativity. You don't think about the thing that could kill you. You don't think about all the things you don't want. You just focus on what you want. I know what I want, right? And then you just go after it with that kind of mindset. I remember like being in the NFL, like lining up against guys that were ginormous, like Jonathan Ogden, right? This guy was ginormous. His head looked like a propane tank. I'm sorry to say that if it sounds offensive, but it's true. He had a huge freaking helmet.
Yeah.
And it was intimidating, right? But then I had to block all that stuff out and just realize like, I'm here to like do this, right? They just execute, like strike him right in the chest. It's just a target. So to not like psych yourself out is a huge thing, right? And just do it, man. Just like give yourself the permission to be the best version of yourself by just fucking saying yes and going after life and just doing it, you know? Don't think too much about it. Like just execute on what you know you need to do.
Yeah. No, it's great advice for people. Yeah. I love you, Brian.
Love you, man. Thanks so much for having me on, dude. It's been fun.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.